All right, so we've got this 2023 Rolls Royce annual report,
Yeah,
and it's a lot to take in.
it is.
So that's why we're here,
Yeah, we're going to break it down.
to dig out all the good stuff, and hopefully by the end you'll feel like you really understand Rolls Royce and their business.
Absolutely. We'll cut through all the noise, highlight what really matters, those key trends, the strategies,
Yeah.
the financial moves.
Yeah, and give you kind of the need-to-know information
Exactly.
without having to read through, hundreds of pages of dense financial reports.
Yeah, it's like the executive summary, but way more interesting.
Way more fun.
Much more fun.
So why don't we start with the foundation of any business, the core segments.
Right.
Rolls-Royce operates across three distinct areas: civil aerospace, defense, and power systems. Each one's kind of like a unique engine driving the company forward,
Yeah,
but they also face their own specific challenges.
I do.
So let's break these segments down.
Okay.
First up, civil aerospace.
Okay.
This is the one that most people probably associate with Rolls-Royce.
Right. They're the ones behind those massive engines that power commercial airliners and business jets.
Huge engines.
Think Trent and Pearl engine family.
Exactly. And their focus is really on that wide-body market, where those large fuel-efficient engines really come into play.
Right.
And they're looking ahead to the future with their UltraFan engine development.
Okay.
Even greater fuel efficiency, reduced emissions. A key point from the report is they already hold a 33% market share of large engines
Wow.
currently in service globally. That's a pretty dominant position.
33%.
Yeah.
That's a lot of planes relying on their technology. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes you think about all the pressure they must be under
Oh, absolutely.
to deliver on reliability and safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of pressure, their defense segment faces a different kind of
Okay.
geopolitical uncertainty.
Yeah.
They supply engines and systems for military transport, combat aircraft, and even submarines.
Wow.
But what I found really interesting was their move into nuclear microreactors.
Yeah. It's a bold move
It is.
to diversify beyond those traditional offerings and position themselves in that future of energy.
Yeah, those microreactors really caught my eye, too.
Yeah.
It's not just submarines.
Right.
They see potential applications across various sectors.
Absolutely.
Plus, it aligns with that growing emphasis on decarbonization,
Yeah.
finding alternative energy sources.
For sure. And let's not forget those big defense contract wins,
Right.
the B-52 re-engining program with the U.S. Air Force,
Huge.
and the Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft program with the U.S. Army. Those are long-term projects,
Yeah.
which brings stability and predictable revenue streams, which is really important in such a volatile sector.
Right. So they're really playing the long game in defense.
Definitely.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, what about power systems?
Okay.
What's their role in this diverse portfolio?
So Power Systems focuses on providing solutions for governmental, marine, and power generation markets. And what really stands out here is their commitment to sustainability. They're investing heavily in making their products compatible with sustainable fuels,
Right.
which is a smart move considering that global push for net zero emissions. They're even developing a brand new M2 engine.
MTU.
Yeah.
What is that?
So MTU Friedrichshafen is actually a subsidiary of Rolls-Royce that specializes in diesel engines.
Oh.
They're a big player in those marine and power generation sectors. So developing this new engine specifically designed for sustainable fuels shows they're really serious about leading this space.
That's really interesting. It's like they're not just reacting to this sustainability trend,
Right.
they're proactively shaping it
Exactly.
and in their own business.
I think that proactive approach is a theme we'll see throughout this whole deep dive.
Okay.
As we look at their financials and future plans, they're not just riding the wave, they're trying to chart their own course.
All right. Well, speaking of financials, let's shift gears and look at those numbers.
Okay.
Everyone wants to know, how is Rolls-Royce actually performing?
Right?
What's the story the numbers tell?
Well, the headline news is that 2023 was a year of record cash generation for Rolls-Royce.
Really?
Yeah, their free cash flow from continuing operations more than doubled to $1.3 billion.
Wow.
That's a massive jump.
It is.
Indicates a much healthier financial position.
So what's driving this impressive cash flow performance?
Right.
Is it just a post-pandemic recovery bump,
Okay.
or are there more fundamental factors at play?
It's a combination of factors, actually. A key driver is that resurgence in air travel,
Okay.
leading to more flying hours for their Trent engines, which translates to higher revenue from those long-term service agreements.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
More flying hours equals more revenue.
Exactly.
But what about the other side of the equation, managing expenses?
Right. That's where things get really interesting. Rolls-Royce has been laser focused on improving their working capital management,
Okay.
essentially how efficiently they handle their cash flow in day-to-day operations.
So working capital is about managing the cash that flows in and out of the business on a daily basis.
Exactly. And by getting better at this, they've freed up more cash, which contributes to their overall profitability.
Got it. So it's all about efficiency.
Yes.
And this focus on financial health is reflected in another key metric, their underlying operating profit margin.
Right.
Now, operating profit margin.
Yes.
For those of us who aren't, finance whizzes, could you break that down?
Of course. Operating profit margin basically tells you how much profit a company makes for every pound of revenue it generates. It's a key indicator of a company's profitability and efficiency.
Okay.
And for Rolls-Royce, their underlying operating profit margin jumped to a healthy 10.3% in 2023.
Wow.
Compared to a mere 5.1% the year before.
So more than double.
More than double.
That's significant.
It is.
That means they're converting revenue into profit way more effectively.
Exactly.
And that means happy shareholders.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the question of shareholder value.
Right.
How is Rolls-Royce rewarding those investors and ensuring they remain confident in the company's future?
Let's talk dividends and buybacks. What are they doing to put those profits back into the pockets of their investors?
So they're taking this two-pronged approach.
Okay.
First, they're aiming for a dividend payout ratio of 40% of their underlying earnings.
Okay.
Which means for every pound of profit they make, they'll distribute 40 pence back to shareholders as dividends.
That's a pretty solid payout ratio.
Yeah.
Especially for a company in a growth phase. It shows they're balancing reinvestment with rewarding their investors.
Exactly. And the second part of their shareholder value plan is a share buyback program worth up to $500 million.
Okay.
This means they'll be buying back their own shares from the market.
Right.
Which can boost the value of the remaining shares.
So it's like they're putting their money where their mouth is?
Exactly.
They believe their shares are undervalued and are taking action to correct that?
Yeah.
But let's dig a little deeper into those financials you mentioned earlier. What are some key metrics that stand out to you from their income statement,
Okay.
balance sheet, and cash flow statement?
All right, let's start with the income statement. Okay.
We see that underlying revenue grew to $15.4 billion in 2023.
Okay.
Primarily driven by the recovery in civil aerospace. More people flying means more demand for their engines and services.
Makes sense. So revenue is up, profit margin is up, cash flow is up.
Yeah,
Sounds like a pretty solid financial picture.
it is.
Yeah.
But remember, strong financials are built on a solid foundation.
Right.
Looking at their balance sheet, it's clear they've been working hard to strengthen their financial position.
Okay.
They've significantly reduced their net debt, which is a key indicator of financial health.
Net debt, in simple terms, is the total amount of debt a company has minus its cash reserves.
Right.
So by reducing net debt, they're essentially lowering their overall financial risk.
Exactly. And their focus on optimizing working capital has also played a crucial role. Remember we talked about how efficiently managing cash flow frees up more cash?
Yeah.
That's also reflected in their balance sheet.
So it's a virtuous cycle.
It is.
Efficient operations free up cash, which strengthens the balance sheet.
Which in turn allows them to invest further in growth and reward shareholders.
It's all interconnected.
Ah.
And finally, if we look at the cash flow statement, it tells a consistent story.
Yeah.
Strong cash generation from operations driven by that record free cash flow we discussed earlier.
So their financials paint a picture of a company that's not only growing its revenue, but also managing its finances responsibly and efficiently.
Yeah.
But as investors, we're always looking towards the future. What's Rolls-Royce's outlook?
Right.
What are they projecting for the coming years?
They're aiming for continued improvement toward their midterm targets,
Okay.
which are quite ambitious, even considering those ongoing supply chain challenges and geopolitical uncertainties.
Ambitious in what sense? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
Well, they're projecting an underlying operating profit in the range of $2.5 billion to $2.8 billion,
Okay.
with an operating margin between 13% and 15%.
Those are some impressive targets.
They are?
If they hit those numbers, it would represent a significant transformation of their profitability.
Yeah.
What are their key strategies for achieving these goals?
They've outlined a few key levers. First, they're emphasizing commercial optimization,
Okay.
which means making sure they're pricing their products and services effectively and maximizing the value of their contracts. It's about getting smarter with their pricing and negotiation strategies.
That makes sense. No
Yeah.
point in leaving money on the table,
Right.
especially in such competitive markets.
Exactly. Second, they're driving efficiency across all their operations.
Yeah?
It's about eliminating waste, streamlining processes, and improving productivity. Think of it as applying those classic lean manufacturing principles to every aspect of their business.
So it's about doing more with less, working smarter, not harder.
Precisely. And finally, they're being more selective about the markets and segments they choose to compete in. It's about focusing on their strengths and playing where they have a clear competitive advantage.
It's a classic strategy of focusing resources where they'll have the greatest impact.
Right. And these initiatives are playing out differently across their three business segments. In civil aerospace, they're seeing continued growth in their Trent engine family as air travel recovers.
Right.
Plus, those long-term service agreements provide a steady stream of revenue.
It's like a subscription model for engines.
Yeah,
Once those engines are out there, the revenue keeps rolling in.
you could say that. And in defense, those recent contract wins we talked about provide long-term visibility and predictable revenue streams,
Right.
which is crucial in such a volatile world.
Especially with all the geopolitical uncertainty, those long-term defense contracts offer a sense of stability.
Absolutely. And finally, in power systems, they're focused on improving profitability by streamlining operations, focusing on key accounts, expanding their service offerings, and of course, pushing those sustainable fuel solutions.
It sounds like they have a well-defined strategy and are executing it effectively across all their segments.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. No business operates in a vacuum. What are some of the challenges and headwinds they're facing as they look ahead?
Well, those persistent supply chain issues are still a major headache. Getting all the components they need to build and deliver those engines on time is a logistical challenge
Yeah.
with all the global disruption.
Those supply chain snarls are impacting businesses everywhere. It's tough to plan and predict when you're not sure if you'll get the parts you need when you need them.
It's a real challenge, and it impacts their ability to meet demand and manage costs effectively. And of course, we can't ignore the geopolitical climate.
Right.
The world is a volatile place right now,
It is.
and that creates uncertainty for a company operating in sectors like defense and aerospace.
For sure. Unpredictable events like the conflict in Israel and Gaza or elections in key markets can create ripple effects across the global economy. How can a company like Rolls Royce measure resilience in such an unpredictable world?
That's the million-pound question. And to be honest, there's no easy answer. But Rolls-Royce seems to be approaching it from multiple angles.
Yep.
Diversifying their portfolio, securing those long-term contracts, and building flexibility into their operations.
It's like having a diversified investment portfolio.
Right.
You spread the risk and bet on multiple winners.
Exactly. And they're also investing in new technologies and solutions that anticipate future trends like those nuclear microreactors and sustainable fuel initiatives. It's about playing the long game and positioning themselves for success in a rapidly changing world.
So they're hedging their bets and trying to stay ahead of the curve. But even with the best strategies in place, there's always an element of uncertainty, right?
Absolutely.
What are some potential risks or factors that could throw them off course?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there are always factors outside their control.
Right.
For instance, a global economic slowdown could impact demand for air travel, which would obviously affect their civil aerospace business.
Yeah, of course.
Or a shift in government priorities could lead to, cuts in defense spending impacting their defense contracts.
Yeah, that's true. And we've seen how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
Just look at the past few years with the pandemic. Geopolitical tensions.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the best laid plans can get disrupted
Absolutely.
by unforeseen events.
Yeah. But I think the key takeaway here is that Rolls-Royce is very aware of these risks.
Okay.
And they're actively working to mitigate them through diversification, those long-term contracts, and a flexible approach to their operations.
It's like they're building shock absorbers into their business model,
I like that.
trying to cushion the impact
Yeah.
of, those external shocks.
That's a great analogy. And it speaks to a broader point about Rolls-Royce. They're not just focused on financial performance.
Right.
They're also committed to building a sustainable and resilient business for the long term.
Yeah, we've touched on their sustainability initiatives in each segment, but maybe you could elaborate on that a bit more.
Yeah.
What are some concrete steps they're taking to reduce their environmental impact
Sure.
and position themselves for a greener future?
So across all their segments, they're investing in technologies that reduce emissions and promote sustainability. In civil aerospace, their UltraFan engine program is a prime example.
Right.
It aims to significantly reduce fuel consumption and emissions, which is crucial for the aviation industry's decarbonization efforts.
We talked about their commitment to sustainable fuels and power systems,
Yeah.
but how does that actually work in practice?
Okay.
Are they simply making their existing engines compatible with these fuels, or are they developing entirely new engine designs?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
They're adapting existing engine designs to run on sustainable aviation fuels, SAF, which is a blend of conventional jet fuel and bio-based components.
Okay.
But they're also investing in R&D to create entirely new engine architectures optimized for these fuels.
So it's not just a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's a long-term commitment to fundamentally changing how their engines work.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the engines themselves. They're also exploring the use of hydrogen as a fuel source, particularly in their power systems division. Hydrogen fuel cells offer the potential for zero-emission power generation, which could be a game changer for industries like marine transportation and power generation.
So they're really thinking holistically about sustainability, from the fuels they use to the way they design and manufacture their products?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about reducing their environmental impact. It's also about creating new business opportunities in that growing market for sustainable technologies.
Right. It's like they're turning a challenge into a competitive advantage.
Precisely. And I think that's a recurring theme with Rolls-Royce. They're not afraid to embrace innovation and adapt to changing circumstances.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the intricacies of their business segments and financials to their strategic initiatives and commitment to sustainability.
Yeah,
But what does this all mean for you, the listener?
right.
Why should you care about what's happening at Rolls-Royce Holdings?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Because ultimately, these aren't just abstract numbers and business strategies. Rolls-Royce is a company that plays a vital role in our world, powering our planes, ships, and even contributing to our energy infrastructure. Their decisions have ripple effects across industries and economies.
They're not just building engines, they're building the foundation for global connectivity and progress.
Exactly.
And their commitment to sustainability is directly linked to the future of our planet.
For sure. So as you follow Rolls-Royce's journey, it's worth considering how their innovations and decisions might impact your own life, your investments, and the world around you.
This deep dive has given you a glimpse behind the curtain at Rolls-Royce Holdings, offering insights into their challenges, strategies, and vision for the future. Now the question is, what stands out to you about their journey? What are your predictions for their future?
And here's a final thought to ponder. How might the development of nuclear microreactors impact Rolls-Royce's business beyond the energy sector? Could we see these microreactors powering aircraft or ships in the future?
It's certainly a fascinating possibility to consider. The applications for this technology are vast, and Rolls-Royce seems determined to be at the forefront of this emerging field. So as you continue to learn and explore, keep an eye on Rolls-Royce. Their story is far from over, and their impact on the world is only just beginning.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Rolls-Royce Holdings. We hope you found it informative and engaging. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.